Hi guys, welcome back to Econ Time with SK. So grab your notebooks, your favorite cup of coffee, and let's get started. Hi guys, how are you doing? So in this video, we are going to focus on this. We are going to try and understand how we should be interpreting the elasticity of demand when it's more than one, less than one, equals to one, zero, or infinity. So the best way to actually understand this is actually to look at a continuum. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Imagine a number line. Okay. So something like this. Okay. At this extreme, you have zero. Notice it never really goes into negative. And here, let's say you've got infinity. Just imagine it as like a really huge number. And in the middle, we're going to put 1. Remember, to figure out whether it's elastic or not, you're just going to focus on this. Is it more than 1 or less than 1? So if it is more than 1, so if it is in this part of the number line, then we say demand for the good is elastic. On the other hand, if it is less than 1, but notice it cannot be a negative number, right? It's just between 1 and 0. In that case, we are going to say it's inelastic demand, all right? So graphically, what does this mean? Well, when we say that something is elastic, what we mean is that the demand curve is flat. On the other hand, when we say that something is inelastic, the demand curve is very steep. Okay, so what does that actually mean? In the case of elastic demand, what it means is that if you've got the small change in price, if the percentage change in price is small, look, the resulting change in quantity demanded, this is huge, right? This is like the small change in price, huge change in quantity demanded. So it is showing that the percentage change in quantity demanded is more than the percentage change in price. That's what we mean by elastic demand. As we are saying, this is what we mean by, hey, you know what? It is very responsive. Okay? And I love these arrow diagrams. So what I'm saying is that you've got the small change in price, the change in quantity demanded is huge, right? Okay. Now let's look at inelastic demand. And inelastic demand, what are we seeing is happening? So you've got this change in price, right? And look, whenever there's this change in price, the change in quantity demanded is tiny. So you've got price falling by this, but look, the change in quantity demanded is relatively much less. So here we're saying, hey, you know what? Whatever the percentage change in quantity demanded is, it is less than the percentage change in price. In this case, we're saying that just quantity demanded is not so responsive, right? Not so reactive. So quantity demanded, not so responsive to change in price. What that means essentially is, you've got, let's say, your price falling like this, but if you look at the change in the quantity demanded, this increase is going to be like much less. All right, so that is what we mean by not very responsive inelastic demand. Okay. And then we're going to look at these extreme cases, right? What does it mean when we see that price elasticity of demand is 0? Remember, what is price elasticity of demand? It's essentially percentage change in quantity demanded due to a percentage change in price. Well, here we are saying that when you change the price, there's no change in quantity demanded. So let's look at it graphically. So this is an extreme case, okay? And we're saying that the price elasticity of demand is 0. So what it essentially means is that, look, let's say the price goes up from P1 to P2. But for some reason, people are so attached to the good. Maybe it is a necessity. So even when the price increases, they continue consuming the same amount, so Q bar. So what we're saying is that there's just no change in quantity demanded due to a change in price. In that case, we say that demand is perfectly inelastic. All right. So look at the formula. So let's say price elasticity of demand is equals to change in QD by change in P times P average by Q average. So what's the result here? The change in QD, well, it's really going to be Q bar minus Q bar. So this is just zero. This is just going to be Q bar. Price average, you're going to get some value. Let's call it P star. And change in P, you're going to get some value too. So let's call this just P dash dash, right? So, but the main problem is that if your numerator is zero, if basically whatever is up here, if that is zero, if your numerator is zero, the whole thing goes to zero. Okay? So that's where you're going to get your price elasticity of demand is zero. Okay. Moving on to this other extreme we've got here, right? Infinity. By infinity, you can already understand. Remember, I said imagine this to be a huge, giant number. So, what we're saying is that when there's this small change in price, there's this giant change in quantity demanded. So, this is where we're saying, hey, you know what? This is elastic demand. Graphically, okay, this is what the demand curve looks like. So imagine the price is something like it's P1, okay? Let's say that at that price, whatever is being produced in the market, it's just being consumed by the people, okay? Let's say that 1,000 units are being consumed. Now, let's say there's this one producer, he wants to increase the price to P2. He increases the price. So what's going to happen is he had 1,000 people, let's say, buying his product. When the minute he increases his price, the quantity demanded will just go to zero. So you see that there's this huge response to a change in price. There's this infinite response to a change in price. It goes from 1,000 to zero. So this essentially is saying that consumers are very responsive to a change in price. They are extremely responsive. They don't just reduce quantity demanded from like 1,000 units to 800 units. It just goes to zero. So it's extremely responsive. So when it comes to the calculation, essentially what is happening is that, the seller realizes that they can't really change price. If they were to change the price, then they would just lose all customers. So the change in quantity demanded, this is going to be some positive number, right? It's going to be some number. But when it comes to percentage change in price, this is just going to be, there's no change in price. So it's going to be like P1 minus P1, right? So that's going to be zero. So basically, whenever some number is divided by zero, what do we get? So whenever we get some number divided by zero, it leads to infinity. So that is why price elasticity of demand is infinity when we're dealing with extremely responsive consumers. So an example of this could be, let's say you go to the market and so think of a place like Newmarket, okay? And there's just thousands of sellers who are selling hangers. So in this case, there are a lot of stalls next to each other. So one guy quotes a very ridiculous price. You'll be like, I'm not going to buy from you. I'm going to buy from the next guy. Because you also have the knowledge that the price of hanger is standard. The company designates a particular price. So all you have to do is just look at the price tag that is given by the company, right? So you know what the price is. So if any guy tries to charge above what is the market price, all the customers would be like, I'm not going to buy from you. I'm going to buy from someone else. So in this case, when you've got full information, this is later we're going to study it. It's called perfectly competitive markets. In that sort of a case, consumers have a lot of options and they have full knowledge of what the price of the good is and what other people are charging. And so if one of the sellers says, I'm going to charge higher, all the customers would just not buy from that guy and buy from the next guy or the other guy. Okay?
Okay, guys, so that brings us to the end of this video. In the next one, we're going to do a brief recap of elasticity of demand and how to interpret them.
All right, guys. I shall see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.